What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Fish Knuckles YouTube channel. Today we're doing a regionals question and answer with Aaron himself. Aaron, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, you excited about how you did this past weekend regionals?
Um, no.
What? You
Er,
got top four though.
If I would have been on the other side of the bracket, it would have been beautiful.
True that. But we'll talk about that here in a second. So
Yeah.
as you see, guys, right now, you can see Aaron's list is Decidueye, Vileplume, deck. And I guess the first question, like always, is going to the tournament, why did you decide to play the Decidueye Vileplume deck?
Decidueye Vileplume is the best deck in format, and there are very few things that can even compete with it. And the things that do compete with it, it still beats fairly regularly. So, and plus, it's like a good version of Trevenant and Toadbats. Like, you item lock, you get to place damage counters, and then you also get, like, a good attacker. So it's literally everything I ever wanted.
I agree with that. Like, I love Toadbats, so, like, any reference to Toadbats makes me happy. So I'll agree with that. Yeah. So, going to day one, how did it go? What were your matches like? Did you win? Did you lose? All that kind of good stuff.
Alright, so do you want me to go through just day one?
It's whatever you want to. Well, we're going to do day one right now, then we'll talk about day two and that stuff later on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Alright, so day one, round one, I play against Lapras. Um, he seemed to be a newer player. I don't have the names, and
That's
that's
fine.
so it played out just like Lapras typically does, where I lose game one and I sack him really hard game two, and then we tie. And so that's basically how Lapras would probably typically go in tournament for this deck, assuming you just get lucky one game.
Yeah.
Um, so round two, I start off with a tie. Round two, I play against the meanest player I've ever played against. Like, he wasn't somebody I knew. I don't think a lot of people know him. I don't know his name, but I sit down and he's starting to shuffle up and he's looking at his deck when he shuffles. I'm like, can you please not look at your deck whenever you shuffle? Oh, wait. So I come to the table and I'm like, hey man, do you mind if I use your dice? He's like, whatever. So that's a good start. And he starts
Great
shuffling.
attitude.
He's looking at his deck when he shuffles and is like, hey, can you not do that, please? And he's like, I'm not doing anything. Like, starts getting really, really aggressive. And I'm like, whoa, man, I'm sorry. And he's like, where are you from? I just try to lessen the tension a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I don't comment on him doing it anymore, because whatever. He starts pile shuffling, and he has two marked cards. Like, very, very obvious, like, destroyed cards. I'm like, can you please replace those? Those are marked. He's like, no, man, I'm not going to replace them. Call a judge. And I was like, Judge. And Judge comes over and is like, those are obviously marked. You have to replace them. He tries to put in pre-ripped sleeves for those cards. Like, they're already torn. And then he starts getting mad at the judge because he has to change his sleeves. And so we finally get to playing. Like, we're already 5 minutes late because he's just been so abrasive. And he's playing Reshiram Giratina, which was the first time I've experienced that deck in this format.
Yeah.
And it's just a walkthrough for Decidueye, except for Giratina lock. So if you just get around that, like attach 2 grass to a Lugia, you blow up a Giratina, and then they don't really have answers. So game one, I start off really, really behind. Like, I start nothing, except Rally. I Shaman for 1. Whatever, 3 turns in, I draw out of it. And I just end up coming back, and it's probably an auto win for Decidueye, honestly. And game 2, we shuffle up. He's starting to be a little bit nicer now. I don't know why, but I cut his deck, and I cut to another card. And that's, like, obviously marked. I was like, can you replace that one? And he's like, no, I'm not replacing that one. The judge already looked at my deck. And I was like, okay, judge. And the judge comes over. It's like, well, that one is obviously marked. I know we already said that, but... And so he starts getting upset because he doesn't have other sleeves, and I understand that. And then turns out he had other sleeves. He just had to go into his binder to grab them. He just did not want to replace his destroyed sleeves. Like,
Yeah.
um, game two, he made a misplay where like I take off early, put like airball shaman for 60, and then next turn I'm gonna knock it out, and rather than sky turn, and then he just concedes. He's upset, and I'm like, I'm sorry, man, and we move on. And so that's fine. I just wanted to talk about that because like I understand some people getting salty, but this was like before a game, and I'm kind of like it's fine. I get that there's stigma around some players, but there's no reason to be that abrasive in a game. All right, so that's my rant about that. Game three, I get to play against Jimmy O'Brien, playing Decidueye Vileplume with Rainbow Energies, and I'm so excited because I love playing against Jimmy, because I like playing against good players, because I like beating good players. And
I understand.
it goes just like the mirror always does. Well, mirror's like kind of weird and volatile. Um, I go first game one, I explode, get turn one Vileplume. Oh wait, I take that back. I go first or second. Who cares? He gets the Vileplume first. Has more Decidueyes than me, and I go Lysander. Use Beedrill to get rid of the Float Stone. Leave it active. Try to catch up.
Hmm.
And it gets really close. I don't catch up. Game two, literally the reverse happens. And then so he goes Lysander, Vileplume, get rid of the tool. Tries to catch up. Barely misses it. And then game three, uh, both of us drew like relatively bad, and then um, it comes down to the point where I had to start loading up a Vileplume that was in the active position, and he like Lysanders around it because I'm either gonna retreat or I'm gonna start attacking with it because it has 2 grass energies on it.
Hmm.
And he makes a huge comeback, and it comes down to if I can hit the last energy in my deck with the 1 card in my deck, and I don't count my prizes ever because I'm bad. So it comes down to whether I prize 2 DC or not, and I didn't. So that worked out. And so that was a really close game. And then I play against Russell round 4, which I'm really excited for. I like beating good players. And and by Russell, whenever I play against Russell, it goes one or two ways. Like he typically, every time we played, his deck has had the advantage, and then the matchup has played out normally, or I've sacked him like crazy. And this time, totally sacked him. He's playing Mewtwo with 2 Wobbuffets and 2 Hex. Game 1, he opens Wob, but almost nothing else, and I end up winning. Game 2, he opens Wob, and a little bit of something, and I lose. And then game 3, he opens Wob again, but I like put down 3 Decidueyes, and turn 2 I go Deep Hurricane, 3 Feather Arrows on the active Mewtwo, and just blow up. And he still almost comes back from like a perfect start, and but it's fine. So I sack Russell round 4, and I'm pretty proud of myself at this point. I'm like, I can do this. All right. So round 5, not really remembering very well.
It must have been an easy win then or something.
I don't know. Oh wait! I skipped a round. I skipped round 3.
Okay.
So Jimmy and Russell were 4 and 5. Round 3, I played against not SPM, but Umbreon, Wob, and I sit down, and my opponent, and I was like, "Man, dude, I just had a bad game with somebody. Please be nice to me." He's like, "Hell yeah!" and so we just had a really nice game, and he opens up with Wob and has an Eevee. And he tells me that he played his deck exclusively to beat Decidueye. And I was like, nice, that's exactly what I want to hear. But I played against a similar deck once at a League Cup, so like I kind of know what I'm doing. He strafes into Wob a lot to like keep the Woblock on, but even without shamans or any abilities, you can just get to the point where you're loaded up. So by the time you Lysandre or something, you're good. So we played 2 really long games, but I ended up 2-0ing them, and that's basically that. I remember it very well, I guess. Round 6, I play against my first Volcanion, and I'm stoked because I love the Volcanion matchup because it's the easiest matchup in the game. What you do is you go first and sack him. You just go turn 1, Vileplume, 2 Decidueye, pass. And so that happens game 1. Game 2, he starts, but he forgets to play a supporter on his first turn for some reason, and I sack him. I lay down the turn 1 Vileplume and Decidueye and a Lugia with the DC, and I just roll through him, and he goes to chill out and get ready for the next rounds, and I'm encouraging him. I think his last name is Wong. He's like one of those players that I always see like on the borderline of always doing well, but I don't really see him in top 8 very much.
Uh-huh.
Round 7, I play against. I don't know. It's all running together again.
No, I understand.
All right. Let's get to the good one.
Okay.
All right, round 8, I play against Grant, and whenever I played against the Volcanion guy, I sat right next to Grant. I'm like, man, I don't want to play this kid. I'm like, please, somebody else beat him. And wait, hold up. All right. We'll go back. I remember my previous matches.
Okay.
The match before that I played against. It was great. It was a Giratina, Garb, Tauros deck. Played 4 special energy, fine deck. I sit down and he's like, "Oh, sick! I'm playing against Decidueye. I've already played against 5 of them," and he was 4-0-1 at the time. And I was like, "Great." So game 1, he just Giratina locks me and gets some crushing hammers and his hammers off, and I'm just like dead in the water.
Uh-huh.
Oh wait. No, that was game 2. All right, game 1. It's a long game 1. I end up winning because he misses energy for like 3 sycamores, and I just get set up and start attacking early and get energy on board with Lugia. And then game 3, I hear time get called. I'm like, okay, it's a tie because we're just starting game 3. Go ahead, circle tie. Then they're like, oh, it's for video game. I was like, nope, we're not tying. And he's like, it's probably going to be a tie anyway. I'm like, then let's play faster. And I go first and I hit the nuts. Like, it's beautiful. I go 2 Decidueye, Vileplume, Lugia, DC, and like 3 turns I knock out 4 Giratinas. And I just sack him so hard. And I'm like, this is great. All right, so let's get to Grant.
Okay.
The first time I played Grant, they took my deck for a deck check after Volcanion, and it takes me a while. I'm like using the bathroom, and I come back and I'm like, hey, we're gonna put you on stream. I'm like, I'm gonna lose. So why am I going on stream?
I don't want to do this.
And they're like, just get on stream, man. I was like, yeah. All right. So I go, and so I get to the play area, and I'm like, oh, I need to go get my deck. Run back over, grab my deck from the deck check area. Run back, and then I pull out my deck, and I just immediately start shuffling up. I'm doing 6 piles because it's just how I count my deck. It's the easiest to know if there's 60. And I'm just not paying attention whenever I do it. And my last 3 cards that I like 6 pile go on top, I'm like, oh, I just must have placed 2-3 stacks on the same whenever I was shuffling. That just caused overlap, and that's fine. Grant, before the match, said something along the lines of, "Oh, I'm not even gonna attack this game," to the judge, and I was like, "Nice," because he doesn't need to. He can literally he could just win the matchup.
Yeah.
Um, so I did not know he played 3 enhanced hammer, and I knew he played 2 team skull grunt and at least 8 team flare grunt beforehand. I didn't know he played like 3 team flare grunt. Um, so I start Lugia. I'm like, all right, maybe he doesn't have a DC attack, and he runs me out of my DC really early because I'm so scared of skull grunt. I'm just attaching Lugia and trying to get knockouts since I started Lugia. I set up Decidueye on the bench, waiting for a grass energy, so that way, if it ever comes, I could just retreat, Hollow Hunt for DC, or retreat, and then Hollow Hunt for DC while he doesn't hit the Skull Grunt. And we just draw a pass for 40 turns. And it's a wonderful experience where I'm just like, man, I didn't count my deck. I know I have a Decidueye out here, but I'm going to hit these grass energy. I get to 3 cards in the bottom of my deck, and I was like, man, I prized at least 1 grass energy. I turn his mail, and then if you see the stream, you can like see the progression like starting here up my face. Like, I'm very calm. I look at my 3 cards in my deck. I'm like, oh, there's no grass energy. I prized 4 of them. Flip over one of my prizes. All right, it's not the grass. Flip over another one. I was like, oh, that's grass. So the other 3 must be grass. Flip over. I'm like, those aren't grass. We have a problem. And then my face like just shifts, and I start looking through my discard, and I look through my hand, and then I smack my hand down because so it was kind of inappropriate. And I understand that I shouldn't have done it, but what had happened is that before the game, the people who deck checked me took 3 of my cards and put them in the back of my deck box, like hidden behind the sleeves. Like I have package sleeves just in case anyone ever wants to change them out. And then so like I played a game with 57 cards, obviously. And so I started like flipping over my deck to like show him, I was like, there's no grass energy in my deck other than the 1. And so what was going through my mind was like, I didn't mean to like put my hand down as hard as I did, but whenever I did, like some flopped over. But I was just trying to show them that like my deck is not here and I have a problem because I just got deck checked. Like there shouldn't be a problem with my deck, man.
Yeah.
I didn't know where my grass energies were at the time. I thought that they probably still had on the table. So I go run over and ask them if they have grass energy at the table, and they're like, nope. And so I run back. Full Post was judging, and so I open my deck box, look in it, they're not there, and then I move my sleeve. I like take out my entire deck box, and the last 3 cards are like on the opposite side behind the sleeves. So I was giving my deck just kind of awkward. And then like I know I lost. It's a game lost no matter what. They still want to make a judge call about it. I'm like ready to move on to game 2. But Keith comes over, the head judge, and he's like, yep, you started without 60 cards. It's game loss. And I was like, yep. And so in the future, what should be resolved is that whenever you give the deck check people your deck, the player definitely needs to just not have trust for other people. There's too much money online to trust other people in this game. Just make sure all your cards are there whenever you pile shuffle, because that's the point of pile shuffling. If someone gives you a reason for pile shuffling that's not counting their cards, it's actually like, let's say someone's pile shuffling and they're like, I draw better after I pile shuffle. That's considered stacking or cheating because it's affecting your draws, and that's why you're doing it. The reason you pile shuffle is almost solely to make sure that you're playing with your entire deck. So if you're checking decks, be careful. There's a lot of money online. Don't mess up. Just put all 60 cards together in the same place. And if you're playing and you get deck check, make sure you have 60 cards. Just always make sure you have 60 cards. And then move on. It wasn't any of the judges' fault. The judges weren't counting the decks. There were other people. Uh, I believe they're just staff. Like they show up, they get a box.
They
They're
get
not.
like just volunteers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they're like, we're gonna go to regional for a day. We're getting a box, and that's not that much payment. They're just there to like. Hopefully, we make sure people aren't cheating, and then if someone is, we just tell somebody and we see what happens. Like they're not involved. Like anybody can staff. It wasn't the judge's fault. Moving on, Keith made the right call in my opinion. But they still let me play game two, and they didn't give me a penalty for not having my 60 cards, which was generous. Um, so I just get fucking smashed again. Sorry.
You're good.
Believe me. I get smashed again game two because I start Lugia and I just draw awkwardly. I can't. My plan was to Sky Return loop in that game, but my draws were so bad. Like I was drawing the energy before the float stones, and then I was like liable to get skull grunted. So I went with the same strategy, and it just didn't work. And I was like, all right, it's a loss. Going to the last round, I play against Oliver, and Oliver, even though I didn't know him before the event, was Grant Manley's like one of his best friends. Like, before I played against Grant, we go over. I'm about to use the bathroom, and he's talking to Grant, and he's like, "Hey, you want to know what's in Grant's deck, man? I have a 60 card list." And the reason why is because he was playing the exact same 60. So I see this like, my face just darkens. I'm like, oh god, my event's over. Last two rounds. But I walk over and he's like, "Hey man, you want to tie?" I was like, "Yes." he, and we're both pretty confident with our resistances. He said that the people that were going to miss were going to be the people on winning ends to get 612. And I believed it. And even if I didn't, he's like, I want to tie off the 1 in 100 chance that I lose. And this is where I get to talk about my philosophy that Sam Chen actually taught me a few years back. When it comes to playing things out, like towards the end, like winning ends, and a tie like puts you on the bubble. You see how many people are going to be on the bubble with a tie, and then you find out the percentage of people who are going to miss, and then you take your knowledge of the matchup into account, and you turn it into a percent in your head. You're like, well, Decidueye versus Lapras 50-50. Me versus this guy 1 in 100 that I win because I have to donk and rack win it or get super sacky. One sec.
Number 5.
I'm number 5 on Wambolt's ranking list now, by the way. So,
Ooh, very
putting
nice.
a plug to get sponsored. So, I have a 1 in 100 chance. There's less than 100 people on the bubble. I would prefer a tie, if anything. And he offers it when he probably should have played it out. Like, definitely.
Yeah.
But moving on, we're both very confident in making it in. He wants it easy one day, too. He would get one. And then we go, that ends day 1. I'm 6-1-2. We go look at the standings. I'm 24th, and he is like 38th, has the lowest resistance, and just did not know what his opponents were doing afterwards. And that kind of sucked. And I apologized to him, hugged him, and he's like, "It's fine, man." And so I get to move on day 2. Kind of sketch-like, but he offered the ID, and it was generous, and I'm happy for it. All right, so that's all of my day 1, just wrapped up nice and tidy.
There you go. So, looking at day 2, is there any of the decks you're like scared of besides the Wobbuffet thing that Grant's playing?
No, going in day 2, I wanted to dodge one deck. I do not think Mewtwo is as bad as what people say, especially with the Beedrill. And what else is there? Lapras, I think, is strictly 50-50. In my experience, I tend to win a lot against it, and then Decidueye, the mirror match is not a win. And then Volcanian's an auto win, and Eviltal's an auto win. So
So feeling very
uh,
confident.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just ready. I see some Eviltals, and I do not think that there was a better matchup in day 2 that I could think of.
Yeah.
Maybe Rayquaza. I was pretty confident in the Rayquaza matchup, even though I didn't play one the entire tournament.
Okay. So what happened day 2? Did you play against all the decks you want to play against?
Yeah, I got great pairings. Match 1, I get to play against Eviltal, which is awesome because I love that matchup. And game 1, he, I don't know. I think I just get. He lays down Garb, and I go, all right, Hollow Hunt for Lysander, Ultra Ball, and Energy. Next turn, I Lysander and Beedrill the tool away. And then from then on, I just knock out Eviltals with Lugia and just get pretty lucky. And game 2 goes very similarly, except he manages to set up 2 Garbodors. And I used Beedrill twice. It either lived or I used Revitalizer for it to just get the tool gone the second time, and he just conceded at that point. So that was pretty nice. It was a nice. It's kind of It's more of a stressful game because if the Garb ever just stuck, I was probably gonna lose either of those games.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have actually lost that match if I played my list from Utah that played a Mewtwo instead of the Beedrill. So that's whenever Beedrill like earned its place in the deck. Like out of the entire tournament, that was the game where it mattered. Round 2. Play against something cool. Um,
Don't know it, but we know it's cool.
I play against Volcanion, which is my favorite matchup. And game 1, I draw and I pass, and but I have basics. Like, don't get me wrong, I had some basics down.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, he gets like a power hero off, gets 5 energy in play on his first turn, and on my second turn I draw a supporter. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. And then I hit 1 Decidueye. I'm like, all right, man. Now I'm gonna sack you, but I generally sack harder than this. Like Russell's sitting next to me, he's laughing because he knows like how lucky I can get with this deck. And so I just get rolled game 1. Game 2 I come back though and I just 2 Decidueye's Vileplume, boom, and he concedes in like 2 turns.
Yeah.
Game 3, he gets Floatstone on Active Volcaniax, Floatstone on Bench Volcaniax. I was like, darn it, because I like whenever they miss a turn of attacking, and I like whenever they pay retreats, and he wasn't gonna do either of those. But other than that, his start isn't very explosive. Like he gets a baby, but misses a lot of energy and hits a Sycamore, but almost into nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I drop Vileplume and Decidueye and Lugia with a DC on it on my first turn. And now, like at Utah, it was really weird because like this almost never happened. Like I didn't sack anybody at Utah. They were all hard games, and here I'm just hitting the nuts off every draw. And then he just draw passes for 2 turns and loses. And so that was fun. I like being Volcanion. I like sacking people, so both those were like nice and up my alley. Round 3, I get to play against Grant, and I'm like, yes, I didn't want to cut anyways. But Grant has enough match points to already be guaranteed cut. He did not need to win or tie, and so like he has the choice to stack cut however he wants. So he could make me fight it out at the bottom by like having to win my next 2 games, or he could tie me and make me still have to win one of my next 2 games and tie, or he could just concede and basically let me in the cut. And he was the nice middle road. He's like, okay, we can ID. because I want 32 points. I was like, you don't need 32 points. But I was like, I'm not fighting it though. I'll take an ID and
Yeah.
half a second against that deck. And so I go and I get to sit down with my one book I brought with me. I brought books from the Ice Shield series, and I spend the entire round reading Ice Shield, which is a great football manga. It's super good. I read it back in 7th grade. I'm rereading it, and I like talking about it. So that's what I did that round. So that's what I'm talking about.
There you
Round 4, I come back and I get to play against Ryan Sablehouse for the first time in my life, and I'm like, I really want to sack him.
go. Because you like beating good players.
I love beating good players, especially by dumb luck. That's the best. So game 1 goes really well in my favor. He starts well, but other than that, he doesn't get much going. And I end up just flopping over him with some Decidueyes and some well-timed arrow balls, and it works out. But like it wasn't like just running through him like I did Russell. I got a little bit less lucky than I did against Russell, and so most of the decisions took more time. And though I'm not scared of Mewtwo with the deck very much, I'm just kind of nervous. And Ryan's not the fastest player either, and so game 1 takes a while, but I win. Game 2, I'm still not thinking about time. I just want to win. And I start, and so he goes first. He attaches DC to Mewtwo, starts wild, passes, and I go pass. And so what we end up doing is I give him enough time to put 4 double colorless on a Mewtwo, and by the time I get anything going, he just one-shots my clean Lugias, and I lose. Game 3. All right, now sometimes you sack people because you draw well, and sometimes you sack people because they don't draw well.
Yeah.
He starts Wob, but like I get a good start. Like I get a good enough start. We don't play many turns, but he goes like 4 DC on a Mewtwo, or 2 DC on a Mewtwo. Knocks out Lugia with Arrow Ball with a Lysander. And he goes down to 3 prizes. And then on my turn, typically like in the same spot, I would be feeling kind of nervous, like I was gonna lose. But it was still a weird scenario. And so what happens is time's called. So the goal is to survive at this point. I'm not gonna win. And I do something, I don't remember what. On his turn, he has the choice to like knock out maybe even a clean Decidueye or Lysander Vileplume to get his items back and only go to 2 prizes and then be forced to knock out any X the next turn. So what he does is he Lysanders Vileplume very intelligently, pops it, and then I promote Decidueye with Floatstone. Into my turn, I have an N in my hand. I put down a Dartrix, and I N him to 2, and put the Dartrix active, just trying to get the tie. And on his turn, because he had 2 cards from the N and draws 1, he's able to play an Ultra Ball for one of his Shaman deck, his last Shaman deck. He Shamans, gets 6 beautiful cards. All of his VS Seekers were Lysanders at the time, and a Lysander was Lysander, and he would have just won the game if he hit any of them. And he has like 13 cards in the deck, draws 7, takes a minute, drops his hand, says it's a tie, and then he flips his deck, and in those cards he pulls out 4 VS Seeker and a Lysander, each of which he could have hit. And I was like, I did.
Thanks, Pokemon.
Then my winning end gets streamed against Jimmy DePamphlis, and he's a pretty fun guy whenever you sack him, because I did. I sit down, I was like, oh my god, I finally get Evil Tall again. What a good day. And before the game, like day 1, or not day 1, like at the beginning of the day, he's like, yeah, so what you do against Vileplume Decidueye is you just Lysander the Vileplume, promote Fright Night, and take 3 prizes. Just like you used to do against old Vileplume decks, because Vileplume can't retreat, it's fat, and then it dies. And then they also get an EX with it. So, game 1, I don't even go for the Vileplume. And that's fine, because you basically turn into an Evil Talmir, kind of, except you have the advantage because you have Air Ball, and you get to choose where the extra 20s go from the Feather Arrows.
True.
And then if they ever go for Garb, you just make it active, and you make it never retreat with the cute thing, the Beedrill. And then so it plays out pretty well in my favor. I just make myself never have to deal with this Tauros, and I move on. Like, you can deal with Tauros with the deck if you go 2 Feather Arrows and blow up a stadium, but if you don't have to, just don't, just kill something else. Like Evil Talls, because we don't like Evil Tall anyways. So top 8, going in top 8, I had a phenomenal interview with Jimmy. Like, we just interviewed each other, and it was beautiful. And if someone's going to watch something from that tournament, I suggest that, because it was really fun. And I give a scenario that's going to happen in Top Cut, where I was like, all right, guys, here's what's going to happen. Going in top 8, Grant's going to play Lapras round 1, and Lapras going to stomp him. Then Lapras going to play something else in top 4, and then Lapras going to get beat. And then I'll play something else in finals, and I'll win. Cut doesn't go that well. Cut is set up perfectly to stop both me and Grant from winning the tournament. So I get Igor and Amir in top 8. Grant gets an auto win in Volcanion without Ranger or Hex, both of which he just which he needs both to probably win the matchup.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side is James versus Mega Mewtwo, and then the guy he lost to twice, which was Danny, and then the winner of me and Grant. So I sack Igor. Just, typical Decidueye stuff. I don't sack him as hard as I sacked some other people in the tournament. Like, game 2 actually got pretty close. He went first. He didn't get a forest first turn, so I got to play some cards, and we got to both play some cards. One turn he puts down 3 Dartrix, and I have 1 Decidueye I'm playing. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna lose, but he just misses Decidueyes for like the next 3 turns, and only ends up getting 1 out. And then at one point he's like, I know I'm gonna lose, but I'm just gonna play it out for me. I was like, yeah. And then we played it out, and it still came down to the wire. It ended up being the point where I just had to Feather Arrow the bench Decidueye until it died, and then that was my only out to win. And he got me down to 1 Decidueye, and I only needed 1 more Feather Arrow to knock it out. So it worked out, but it was a lot closer than most of my other mirrors went. And then, so going in top 4, I have a great conversation with Steven Vresco and Azul, and I just sit down and I'm humble and I'm like, okay, I don't know how to beat Grant's deck. I haven't thought about it for hours like the commentator said. I was just like, someone else is going to beat him. I'm not going to deal with it, but now time to step up.
Yeah.
And then game 1 goes really, really well against Grant. Azul and I and Vresco all talked about it. I figured out I didn't play Crushing Hammer, something I should have known before, but I didn't actually know before I explicitly heard it from Azul. So I was safe to attach Grass Energies to Decidueye whenever it wasn't in the active. So what I was going to do, I was going to go Shaman, put Decidueye on the bench, Shaman Loop once I had more than 1 DC in my hand, get rid of my hand, draw something without a DC, make Skullgrunt only get rid of 1 energy at a time, take prizes, force him to attack something else, play down a bunch of cards with a big hand and win. Alright, so game 1 starts off really, really well. I start Shaman, I get Shaman on the bench, set up Decidueye. I get to draw pass a lot, which is really fun. And then I get to go. I just get the Sky turn until he skull grunts the energy, and we're back to draw passing for a while. And I get to have a lot of fun draw passing because it's a blast. Because it's my favorite type of game. My favorite type of game is against decks like Wailord and Grant's deck, where the most of the game you don't do anything, and then you figure something out. Because that's it's more of a puzzle than most games.
True.
It's just fun. And then so that game went pretty well until I messed up. What happened was I came to the end of my deck, and I had one DC left, and and I already have my Decidueye active, like ready to hollow hunt. And then I into a DC, which was bad, because at that point I should have already known it's time to keep Sky returning. But I already had the Decidueye active, man. I didn't want to do that. So I popped the hollow hunt for my 3 DC, and of course he hits the Skullgrunt off of the end because he still had 6 prizes left. So I got punished pretty hard for that. And then I opted to go for a Razor Leaf to knock out a Wob, which was fine, given that he had a small hand. For some reason, he only had 2 cards in his hand whenever I went for the Razor Leaf. And one of them ended up being Hand Hammer, which was bad for me. And then, so he runs me out of energy, but I knock out all the Wobs, or 3 of the Wobs. I didn't know where the 4th one was. Comes up Glaciant, starts attacking. I get to play down a bunch of Decidueyes, have 1 grass left in the deck. So I was playing that if he ever retreated, I was just going to go Dart Tricks, snipe it, still do Feather Arrows, and get a knockout on him. If he missed PCL or Rough Seas at any time, I would have won the game. But he didn't, and it actually came down to a 50-50 for if he pulled his last VS Seeker out of his prizes to get the Lysander for a knockout on Shaman. And he did. And I lost that one. And during that game, I found out a strategy that I was just way too late on. Well, during game 2, I figured out a strategy that I'm way too late on draw for, where you can just put 4 grass energy on Decidueye to get, so you're guaranteed at least 2 Razor Leafs, and then it makes Skullgrunt a lot worse because they're never going to hit your grass. But I start Lugia, which is bad, because it means I need a Floatstone to start doing anything. And then I just end up drawing all of my energy before my Floatstone. Like, I play a level ball at one point to search my deck, and 2 Floatstone were in the bottom 4 cards of my deck. And I just get rolled. And that ended my tournament. And then James won, so that's good. Because I didn't want Grant winning with that thing, because that deck is bad. But like I'm happy he did well with it. No, I'm not. It's still a bad deck. It's just Wobs. Just Wobs and energy removal.
Well, it's
But
still, yeah. But still be top 4 is great to be. I know not to you, but
so check it out though. I'm really stoked I made top 4 still, even though I didn't win. Because I have this senior that he was a junior a while ago. He was an amazing junior. His name is Josh Radia, and he has 9 trophies, like 9 beautiful glass. And so this weekend I finally caught up to him. So we're there.
There you go. At least top 4 of these trophies. That's good.
So now my senior is not better than me.
Are you gonna pass him, or is he gonna pass you?
Oh, I'm gonna pass him.
There we go.
Yeah. I'm about to win nationals and worlds in the same year. He's not gonna know what hit him. Oh, and Mexico. I'm gonna give Madison to somebody else though, because I'm just gonna start off the format bad.
Okay. All right. So, but first, like I said, congratulations, Sarah. Top 4. It's fantastic. You got a ton of money, ton of points. So.
Yeah, thank you. I'm stoked.
Yeah, man, for sure. So, I guess my real question about Decidueye, we know a lot about it, but looking forward to Guardians Rising. A lot of people are hyping up Garbodor and Tapu Lele and like other stuff, and maybe like Wild Lapras a little bit more now. Do you think Decidueye will still keep on trucking along, or do you think it'll go downhill after Garden Risings?
Oh yeah, I think this deck is gonna stay around. Heard Raul like talk about his experience with the Decidueye and uh, only said positive things about it. And then at the end of his self interview, he's like, "But next format is not gonna do well." He didn't really give an explanation other than that it won't compete well in the next format. But I just don't see it. Garb is cool, um, but you play 3 level ball, 3 trainers mail, which is 6. You play 4 ultra ball, which is 10, and then you play 2 revitalizers, which is 12. And I don't think there's any more items in the deck.
Glowstones.
Flowstones. So we have 14, kind of, because flowstones never hit the discard, so you don't have to worry about them.
True.
And so if you play every item in your deck, then Garb can one-shot you, because they only do it based off items, right?
Yeah.
But now we get field blowers, so you don't have to play the stupid Beedrill card. You get to play like a good card instead. And then like Tapu Lele is cool for people to help draw unlock, but it's not going to help them keep up with a Tapu Lele Arrow Ball that's making Decidueye even more consistent.
True.
So I think the deck's going to stick around. I think you can beat Garb decks easier with a field blower in it. So you play 13 items at that point. And then you against those decks, you can just be more conservative, really, unless they're running energy control.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can still outdamage them if you draw well.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Tapu Lele, would you cut the Lugias entirely for Tapu Lele's, or do you think like Deep Hurricane's still worth keeping in?
I haven't tested it yet. I'm still considering it. I'm at least cutting one of the Lugias for Tapu Lele. I love not blow through. I don't know what second attack is. I say blow through because tornadoes.
Tornadoes, yeah, it's Deep Hurricane.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So yeah. So 150 is almost too good to take out of the deck, but cutting one is fine because you typically use one for Arrow Ball and then one for Deep Hurricane.
True. Yeah. That's fair enough. All right, man. Well, I mean, is there anything else about Decidueye you want to talk about? I mean, I think talked enough about it, I think, unless you think there's something you think we're missing.
Nope. It's obviously the best deck in format. It's really hard to argue with that statement, even though like there's so many decks, and it just beats everything. And in this format, literally, I should have played against 9 mirrors and then Grant's deck, but I didn't. So.
All right, Aaron. Well, do you get a shout out to anybody before we head out?
God, I always feel bad about shoutouts because I forget people.
Then just say nobody.
Let's shout out Wamby for making me 5th in his power rankings now because it makes me look pretty cute.
There you go.
And just shout out to everybody that helped me out this weekend and everybody that was cool about the 57 cards thing. Like all the judges and the staff, and shout outs to the people that let me take my food into the venue because I'm hypoglycemic, so it would have been really bad if I could not afford the food in that venue and I couldn't bring food in because I couldn't afford it. I didn't have money. But yeah, it all worked out. It's cool. So
all right. Well, thank you, Aaron, for doing this interview. Are you gonna go to any regionals coming up? You talked about Wisconsin, but are you gonna go to Canada or anything like that?
I will go to Wisconsin and I will go to Mexico. I didn't want to do Canada because it's my friend's birthday.
Okay.
Everybody send birthday wishes to Austin Lane because he deserves it. And so I was just going to say forget Canada and do Austin Lane's birthday. But then we're not going to do Austin Lane's birthday for whatever reason. So I just didn't plan for it. And
Thanks,
then,
Austin.
and then, like, with the point increase in the top 4, I finally broke top 16 again.
Okay.
But the problem is the cutoff is the 18th. So it's like next Wednesday. So I'd have to do Canada to really guarantee my spot and then place. But now I'm not prepared to go to Canada, so I'm probably going to just lose $1,000. But I should be in a pretty good position to top 16 before Worlds if Mexico and Madison go well.
True. And then you got nationals too, right? Of course.
Yeah, but I don't plan on ever doing well at nationals. Like,
You just said you were going to win and then win worlds. What happened?
oh, I don't plan, but I do. Like last year, top 64 off of losing my last 3 matches, and 2 years ago I got 17th out of. I got 17th.
Yeah.
Need 16th for the invite though, so. But I've recovered pretty well from that.
Okay. All right. Well, Aaron, thank you again for doing the interview. I really do appreciate it. Good luck in your future tournaments. If you make another top 8, let me know. And we can talk about Decidueye more because we know that's what you're playing.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Hope you learned something new about Decidueye. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Alrighty. Bye.
Bye.
Alright guys, I just want to give a quick shout out to our 3 sponsors, 60 Cards, Yeti Gaming, and the Pokemon Company International. Links to everything will be down below in the description. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Alrighty.